George?
Yeah.
Are we recording? Brilliant. Okay, 15 Coping tonight is with Lee and me about internal negativity, self-negativity, low self-esteem, that kind of thing. And the reason it's come up is... Whoa, that was really loud. There were boisterous people outside. The reason it's come up is I found myself doing it more and more. I find myself sitting in my car going, I think the world would be better off without me. And that kind of things, yeah, which is, it's not really like me. I'm kind of gregarious, I'm kind of, you know, full of beans and all of that. But a lot of that's masking, I'm finding.
Oh, that's interesting.
Had a bit of an eye-opening experience this weekend, right? So, as you probably all know, there's been all kinds of drama with my teeth.
Yeah.
So I had gum actual surgery where they cut some gums off. Then they filed down my teeth to put top ones on. Then my bottom teeth decided to have root canals. And I've had 2 so far. And guess what, kids?
Got one coming.
2 more.
Oh, hooray.
Yay. So I'm wondering whether it's just the sheer amount of abuse that my body has taken, you know, and the amount of chemicals swimming around in me. Bearing in mind, I haven't ingested a narcotic for 15 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, apart from the inevitable caffeine from Madhouse Coffee, just get that in there. So what I'm wondering is, look at that. Am I on my own with this? Is there an internal negativity to normal people? What's the reaction to you? I mean, obviously you're not normal. But...
Interesting. This wasn't the angle I thought we were going to go down. So we'll come to that angle later. I think everyone is self-critical. I certainly don't sit and think the world would be a better place without me.
No?
Quite the opposite, probably, because I've started to get a bit arrogant in my older years. But
sit in the car going, fuck, the world couldn't do without me.
But yeah, I think we all have an inner criticism.
Do you? Okay, I saw something the other day that said that, you know, this self-esteem issues and, you know, negativity towards self comes from your parents.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can have the most loving parents.
Yeah.
And they can nurture you and give you everything you need. But if there is any negativity in them, you're going to pick up on that as a child. You know, Samuel has, but, you know, Samuel is Samuel. He's gregarious out. He's all right. He's only 10. But, you know, he has moments of self-esteem. But we all do, problems. Yeah. I am seeming more and more to have more and more black days, I think they're called, are they? But so my parents, I remember this idyllic childhood.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have any stress.
Yeah.
There was never anything to rebel against apart from the school situation because I was a bit of a dick. So, you know, but apparently after the fact I found out there was negativity between my mother and my father. There was problems. But every couple has problems. So you can't ever consciously pinpoint where your self-esteem issues come from, can you?
No. I mean, funnily enough, listened to a little pod on the way over, and they were talking about how self-worth, if we think self-esteem, self-worth are the same things. A lot of the self-worth issues people have is the shoulds in your life. That was the way this woman put it. It's like, you should have more money, you should be more successful at the age of whatever, you should have this and you should have that. And she said one of the ways of coping and dealing with self-esteem issues is to ignore the shoulds, right? Just because society thinks you should do this or you should do that. Just if you find yourself saying I should whatever, just check that and say, well, why should I? Is that just because society expects it? Because it makes you think that you're not achieving. It makes you think that there's something wrong with you. And that, I think, is the essence of low self-esteem, is that you think you're not worthy, you're not good enough. That's the point.
My question, I think, to myself and the world is, why am I 50 years old, still struggling with business, having no money whatsoever? And is it just because I'm used to it? I'm used to that lifestyle. I'm used to being skint. Do you know what I mean? And that, I think, so that what I'm looking for is a reason why suddenly, when, you know, we're doing this amazing podcast, there's these amazing things that I really want to do actually happening. I'm not somebody who talks about things. I'm somebody who does things.
Yep.
You know, that counselling course that we turned out we're both doing, I've just done the third assessment.
So have I, yeah.
It was a week late, but she marked it this morning.
All right, I've never marked it.
I passed.
Sunday,
Obviously.
Okay.
But then I took a mental health first aid course as well, because for obvious reasons, for the job thing. And then I answered it all, and she said, well, all of your answers are perfect. They're all correct, but it's not what I want. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So then all of a sudden I thought, oh shit, I'm not good enough for this straight away.
Yeah.
And then I asked her what she meant. She said, well, this should be about your perception. I said, I've got no perception. I don't work in this area. So all I can go from is my own life and the workbook you put in front of me.
Yeah.
So she, in a counselling course, a mental health first aid course, has judged me to just be a parrot because I don't have the necessary experience, which seems a little bit odd. Because the counselling thing, we get all of that from the workbook that we are given, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, little things like that chipping away at me. But I think life has got on top of me a little bit at the moment, just because, you know, and George, you know, to a certain extent, he'll be able to tell you this as well. We go to work every single day and we work really hard, but it doesn't seem to matter.
But it depends what your measure is, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but my measure is being able... I put it this way, right? Just to go to Wales, I had to go and be a handyman for 2 days.
Yeah.
Right? So I could pay for what I needed to pay for. I'm 50.
Yeah, I'm not being obtuse by saying that.
Yeah, and
obviously there's a difference between wanting £1 million and a Bentley and having enough money to eat and live and...
Wait till we set up the church.
Stuff. Yeah, there is that.
So look, I mean, instead of falling down my rabbit hole with me, what I'm trying to portray is we at 50 and Coping are doing our best to work through the mire of crap that is our lives. Yeah. And, you know, we all have different things, but even I question, you know, would my family be better off without me? Would they have things? And it rung a real big bell because Joe was saying that, the paramedic. Quickly, he's doing another crossing of the channel. So look up Paddling Paramedic on Instagram, please, and support that man. He is a hero.
Yes.
And I don't say that lightly. Please do that. I'll put the thing in the doobly-doo underneath. So, look, you know, he has come back from actual plans of suicide. But he was saying the same things. And I suddenly thought, Jesus Christ, I'm saying all this. But I don't think I'm suicidal. Do you know what I mean? I don't think I'm going to go and off myself.
No.
So what's the difference between, you know, what's the difference between low self-esteem and suicide? What's the difference? Is it just the act?
Do you think you've got low self-esteem then?
Yeah.
Does just your definition is that because you're questioning that? Do you think you're not good enough in some of those aspects?
Yeah. I've never been good enough to fit into the world that I fit into. I've always questioned my ability, mostly because others have abused that as well. You know, coming out of one of the business things, I've realised that I was completely controlled by somebody else telling me what I should be doing, what they expected.
Yeah.
Now, bear in mind, I'm the boss.
Yeah.
And then I'm so influenced over all these years, it becomes like... Because I once said to somebody, I can't remember who it was, probably Sid, I need a day off, man, I'm burnt out. And she said, well, take one. I said, I can't, I've got to work. And she went, what? You own the place. You can do whatever you want. Yeah. Oh, no, it was Mickey, who used to work for me. Or with me, actually, not for me. But, you know, and she said, what do you mean? Just, she couldn't understand what I was talking about. So, you know, Talon has told me that I'm self-deprecating, but I've always been that. Because if you self-deprecate, then you can swerve out of most situations. Mm-hmm. But also, you know, there's a whole lot going on with me. There's like body dysmorphia. There's never having confronted my addiction. So, you know, there's all that going on. Is this the me show?
Sounds like it.
That's not good, is it?
We can work with that.
I think we should move on from me. But, you know, right, so I've hit 50. We're in season 3, which is pretty bloody amazing. But also, I am starting to realise that I am self-analysing so much more than I ever did.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And unless you recognise something, there's not anything you can do about it, is there?
Right. So back to self-esteem. Early days, okay, your parents on the outside are smiley, shiny people. They love you, they support you.
Yeah.
But on the underside, in their relationship, maybe it's not the best. And there's arguments and stuff like that. That negativity, it's suggested, would then give the child low self-esteem because they see themselves as a cause, even though they're not involved.
Yeah.
How as parents, how can you countermand that? I mean, and what they're saying is you can be out frontwardly masked as much as you need to be, right? So the child doesn't see it, but the child picks up on it.
Yeah.
So how do you? I mean, how can we stop? Are we creating mentally unstable children just by interacting with ourselves?
I think they just absorb stuff from their environment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But is it vibrations? Is it sounds? Obviously, if they hear their parents fighting, that's no brainer. Oh, I keep saying that.
Yeah, but you still pick up on a vibe, don't you? However much you think you're covering it. I mean, I have a huge amount of guilt from my kids for the divorce and abandoning them and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, they will pick up on stuff. It's instinctive. I think. I don't think there's anything necessarily you could do to stop it.
No.
And it's not necessarily even problems. On the pod that I was listening to on the way over, the lady was saying that you may just not have had. You may have had in your opinion, a perfectly lovely childhood, which I did with my parents. But you pick up on their insecurities.
Well, you did have underlying issues as well, though, which were put in your face when your father was taken away from you, as well.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my wife turns around to me, and because I always used to say, I did have an amazing childhood. Right, I grew up in Somerset. I ran feral for most of the day because we had the biggest gardens in the universe. We lived in a 5-bedroom house that we could only afford to live in 3 rooms. So it was like the rest of it was just some spooky place to run around in.
Yeah, I don't think as parents we should linger on that. But a lot of early psychology is, Freud and stuff is all about how your parents treated you and all that stuff, isn't it? But I think that's when you're a child, that is your primary source of information, isn't it?
Well, it's your world, isn't it?
What your
parents are your
world.
world.
Most exposed to. So I don't think any parent, unless they are abusive, should feel guilty for the impact they've had on their kids.
No.
I think it's just a fact. It's just that is your circle of influence.
That's what happens.
You spend most of your time there, whether that's dealing with, their insecurities. So I mean, my dad versus my uncle. My dad was poor relative to my uncle, who was rich. But what I've seen, I think I might have mentioned on previous pods, in my older years, I guess since middle age upwards, I actually have far more respect for my dad's way of life, of not being driven by money, than the other side of it. So I'm starting. I think I've come from a position of incredibly low self-esteem as a kid.
Yep.
And that's probably all, I guess, rooted through being bullied and all that stuff as well. To going through a bunch of trauma, coming out of that trauma and sort of reassessing my life and going, no, actually I am worth, a decent wife, and I am worth, being respected at work, and I am worth all of that stuff. So I think I'm probably on the opposite journey to what you feel like you are at the moment. I think
it's difficult, isn't it? Because everyone in that counselling course, right, they tell you that you have to be completely open. There can be no discrimination of anything.
Yep.
Because if you can't accept the differences in people, i.e. religion, sex, gender, all of that,
yep.
right, then, and also race, and also culture. If you can't just accept people at face value, how are you supposed to treat them?
Yeah.
If you don't understand a bit of their culture, Sikhs, you come and you don't understand why they wear a turban, or you don't know their teachings. Muslims the same. I don't know a lot about Muslims, but it doesn't. I've always said this, right? Doesn't matter what colour, race, or creed you are. If you're a cunt, you're a cunt, right? That's it. All of this thing. Andy at college, right? He was a great giant black man, right? Who was the funniest in the world, and we were thick as thieves at college. I wasn't there very long because women and drinking took over. But anyway, we would spend lunchtimes roaring with laughter, And then some guy came up to me in the thing who I didn't really know, who just said, "Why would you hang around with him? He's not one of us." And I remember flipping. I absolutely kicked the shit out of this bloke on a table in the middle of the dining hall in Maida Vale College of Further Education about 1992. I imagine it's still on police record. Because I was arrested for it. But the bloke dropped the charges, and the police dropped the charges when they found out what the guide said and why I did what I did. I was very lucky. I had hurt him. Right, but it's, you know, this has really opened my eyes, all these courses. I know so much more. Now, you know, I've always said that knowledge, having all this extraneous stimulus, so all of the news, all of the internet, all of people's views, all of people's values in front of you, you'd think that that would be useful, right? But too much information can blow your mind. I'm supposed to be, you know, like these little girls who dress up in no clothes and put on the makeup and do all that because one of the Kardashians is doing it. Right, and I'm not bashing the Kardashians, it's too easy. But what I am saying is that this fake identity is given to children and indeed adults, and they strive to be that. And, you know, a lot of children are struggling against that now.
Yeah, so as we've also said previously, I'd say social media has a bigger impact on the younger generation's self-esteem than their parents do.
Yeah,
because there's so much to live up to, isn't there?
Well, there's so much to live up to because it's more accessible. Also, everyone goes, "Oh, there's so many more paedophiles and murderers now." No, that's not true.
Aware of it, yeah.
We just know all about it. And now, you know, the BBC have stopped protecting them, hopefully. You know.
Yeah, and employing them. Yeah.
Self-esteem is a strange game, right? Because one day I can only use me, and I'm being very careful only to use me as an example, because it's important not to bring anyone else into that. But there are some days where I walk across this planet like I own the fucking world, right? No one can step to me, no one can disappoint me, no one can hurt me. And there are other days that I am fragile and I'm walking on eggshells. So what is that? A chemical imbalance? What is it? Is it genuinely that I am that confused about my own self-esteem?
I think you maybe have overanalyzed yourself.
Well, yeah, but I think I've been forced to do that.
Based on your previous statements, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you know, self-esteem is really interesting in as much as that basically without strong, solid self-esteem, you can't really achieve as much as you could.
Yeah.
You know, it can derail your whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how prevalent is that now? Does everyone have a certain self-esteem problem unless they're an absolute arsehole? You know, like those trading dealers in the 80s who were just completely up themselves.
Yeah, I think there's a connection to whether you can experience shame or not. So psychopaths, not the people that go around killing people with axes, but
sociopaths,
psychopaths, narcissists, all of that group.
Yeah.
Generally have a problem with experiencing shame, and therefore they don't give a shit. So
That'd be
therefore
great.
They tend to be at the arsehole end of the spectrum because they have less respect for other people, less empathy, all of that stuff. And I think that's what leads to people that to me come across as arrogant. Maybe they're self-confident, but I bet they're full of insecurity underneath it all. It's just
is it arrogance and self-confidence, or is it like? So do you think they're all masking then? Because, you know, everyone has this Teflon persona.
Yeah, because so those boys that are there with their, you know, brick mobile phones and all that
red Porsches
stuff and all of that, they probably still weren't very happy if they actually sat and analysed themselves.
Well, look, when the stock market broke, people were literally throwing themselves out of windows.
Yeah, but they, I guess we've covered this again before. That drive for financial success is hopeless, isn't it? You don't.
Well, okay. So if you look at the realities of situations, say you are 40 and you've been a successful dealer and you've weaned yourself out of that, and you're on there now. You're going to be happy because you don't have to think about your mortgage, you don't have to think about any bills, you can pay everything, you can go on holiday, do what you want.
Yep.
So, but they're not arrogant, are they? They're not, you know, some people who's made it and they've done it and then now they can go in this direction they want. They're monetarily stable.
Yeah.
You know, you can't criticise them for that.
No.
But yeah, I think society only works when people are well off enough or have enough to function. But not everyone can do that. So how do you, what I'm getting at is how do you know, it's good to say, yeah, well, you don't have to live up to society's values, but when they're not society's values, they're just whether you can afford a loaf of bread or not.
Yeah, that's where it's different, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like people who are in real poverty, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm not starving to death, as you can tell, you know, but it's you know, I think as I get older and I'm getting more and more involved in that, I think my life is now becoming a realisation of things. Because you're not an addict well, usually you're not an addict without a reason.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for me, I think, is low self-esteem. Mm-hmm. I think it is inability to fit into this mould of bullshit that this world is about. Because I definitely, what mould are you going to put me in?
Yeah, but the advice on this podcast is focus on fulfilling your values, not society's values. So being a kind person, doing good.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
That stuff which you do, all of that. And I know, you know, the finance thing is the one thing that I think breaks the rule, because
you can't. You can.
You can't.
But also, I am not prepared to go and work in some office. And have I mentioned that I hate middle management ever?
A little bit.
Yeah. So can you imagine that? Kevin, who is 27, who still lives with his mum, telling me about anything. How's that going to go? I'm going to rip his head off. Verbally, obviously, not in reality. I don't see how I can function. Now, this is what we were talking about, doing these jobs with some charities and things where I can be involved in that kind of thing. That's where I feel comfortable. Doing all this retraining is helping my self-esteem, apart from when people saying, well, you've got the answers right, but it's not what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Put up a flag, son. Give me some kind of idea. What are you talking about? I mean... Also, I need to say now for clarity, I have deferred my Open University module until October.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you this now, with the amount of surgeries and misery with that, I just wasn't doing it. The other courses I am doing it because they're relatively easy. But I have deferred to October and I will carry on that module so then I can do the psychotherapy degree. But I'm going to do an NVQ Level 3 first.
Yep.
Because then I will know all.
It's always good to have a plan.
Yeah, I never stick to my plans, but that's the plan for today, kids. Right, where were you going with self-esteem?
I was going down the route of low self-esteem, leaving you being open to being abused and taken advantage of.
Okay, so...
Which I think I'm probably...
Abuse in what way?
We maybe come on to baby reindeer later. For me, and for others, I think with low self-esteem is the second half of the sentence, being taken advantage of. The desire to be a nice person and not upset anyone. You as a person with low self-esteem, you think, well, what can possibly be wrong with that? I just need to be nice to everybody because I don't ever want to upset anyone.
Yep.
And it's only when you go through some sort of trauma and you realise that, well, actually, but you've exposed yourself to being taken advantage of.
So if you if you need to be all things to all men, so you don't accept everything, there are no boundaries set. So therefore, your self-esteem can lead you to becoming the doormat.
Yeah, you just want to be a people. I've always been a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is to do with not wanting to upset my dad because he could blow up and smash the house to pieces or whatever.
Yep. So walking on eggshells there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that proves the point about parents and self-esteem. Just doesn't it?
Yeah.
Validates that.
One of the scenarios. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
And I think that does then expose you to the more manipulative people in the world that will then naturally take advantage of you. And some people question my opinion of this. I do think some people, narcissists, sociopaths, all that, I don't always think that they know that they're doing it. I think it's just a habit that they've got to know through being a child of being the bossy one and taking the toy off the other kid and all that stuff, and me being the other kid going, oh, they better have that then, otherwise I might upset them. I think that a lot of that is sort of social, maybe it's not social conditioning, but it's just learned behaviour.
Learned behaviour, yeah.
So that low self-esteem, I think, for whatever the cause is, I say part of that is bullying from being little at school and wearing glasses and having shiny hair and all the stuff we've spoken about before. Leaves you not wanting to upset people further and expose yourself to more criticism, so therefore you put up with more.
Is it that you don't want to upset them?
Yeah.
Or you don't want to trigger them into bullying you anymore?
Probably both.
That's not the same thing, though, is it?
Yeah, no, but it probably is both.
Yeah. Because
you want, let's face it, you want to be loved, right? Everyone wants to be loved, and that's it. I know it's a Whitney Houston cliche, but it's self-love, right? You don't know how to self-love, so therefore you need love from other people, and you think you're going to get that love by being nice to them. Yeah. And then you find out as you grow up there are more arseholes in the world than you thought there were.
Could possibly imagine.
And therefore, you've got to be careful who you're going to be nice to. I think
if you try, even people close to you, you know, if you try and please them all the time, there are no boundaries laid down. So therefore you become this taken for granted doormat. And I've been there.
Which you've been there. Which as that doormat, you have to take responsibility for that.
Yeah, because if you don't, boundaries, as we're all learning in these things, if you don't set boundaries of what you will accept and what you don't accept, then nobody knows. Yeah. So yes, if they take advantage of you, but then you have some blame for that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, I am terrible at setting boundaries for people, simply because I think that I trust that people will do the right thing if they work for me or if they work with me. I trust that they have the same values that I do, which they don't, because they're not me. That's not a criticism of anybody before anyone starts chirping.
No, but it's criticism of you, because you judge people by your own principles, don't you?
Yeah, and that's
dangerous.
That's stupid. Because
I don't know.
Because look, if you look at it this way, why would somebody who works for me or with me have the same values as me, the owner of the shop?
No, I think it's natural to think that everyone thinks like I do in that moment.
Yeah, but they don't, do they?
No.
So, like, you know, little things in the shop, you know, you walk in and something's not clean or something's not right, and you're thinking, I've been gone for 2 days. What? Yeah. And then you realise that it's not on their agenda, and it shouldn't have been on their agenda. Did you write a letter saying, can you do this?
Yeah, no, I'm only recently learning to not be like that at work. I see other people and go, why did you do that? Why didn't you do that? Or why haven't you done that? Surely it's easy, isn't it?
Yeah. I think you have to look at self a lot more than people do, because everyone points blame at people. Yeah. Right? Have you ever seen that shower of shit with the fake millionaire, that The Apprentice?
I have watched that.
Can I tell you all about Lord Sugar?
Yeah, go for it.
Right, invested in Amstrad because he went the wrong way, lost his arse, got bailed out by his rich friends, came along, blah, blah. Now he's in a boardroom on the television firing people because in 3 days they didn't sell the magic number of tickets of fucking gnome ears. I mean, what the fuck does that prove? And then, you know, some of them have gone to be millionaires. Yeah, but it's not, is it? That's influencing.
It's just entertainment.
But it doesn't entertain me, it makes me angry.
No, I don't watch it anymore. But
my wife loves it.
Yeah, I used to watch it. I don't watch it anymore.
I just think as well that, you know, you put yourself on a pedestal, i.e. Lord Sugar. I just don't know why I hate him so much, but I really do. Not because he's rich. I good luck to you. Mm-hmm. But it's what I'm finding struggling with is that, you know, all the media now is this is what you do to get there. All of this SEO stuff, all these millions of people on Instagram going, I got my first 50 million viewers by blah, blah, and then you do blah, blah, and then you do this. Well, speaking as someone who has to do that to get the word out about what we're doing, the only reason I am following, I think it's called vidIQ, and I pay £10 a month for that. It's a plugin. It's because Andy, who is Madhouse Coffee's best customer, said to me while we're in Wales, listen, just try this, mate, because it's really good and it comes up with the right things and gives you keyword suggestions and all that. Now, SEO to me was a complete and utter mystery.
Yeah.
But now they've just talked to me in words of 2 syllables or less and I understand everything they're doing. Cool. So my self-esteem about the back end of 50 and coping is rising because I'm informed. Now, that's what, going back to that glut of information and all these stupid fuckers on television making out that they're successful in their fields when they're not. You know, all of that is negative. But me learning and finding by talking to my peers has provided me with actual knowledge. Right. Anything you can read on the internet, anything that is given to you by a news channel has some kind of spin somewhere.
Yep.
Where can you actually find base level facts?
I don't know.
How old are you now?
I'm 52.
Okay, I'm still 50. George, how old are you?
27.
George is 27. None of us know where to find the actual facts of the matter.
No, and I think, the information superhighway, the internet was supposed to resolve that, wasn't it? You could find any information anywhere. But now I think I don't trust anything.
Well, I can't tell you what's truth and what's not.
No.
Because everyone has an opinion. That opinion, right, it's a butterfly effect, isn't it? Or the whispering thing, or whatever the flip it is. So the actual truth is here, right?
Yep.
By the time you hear it, 25 people have heard that truth, regurgitated it.
Oh, I see.
And in their brain, yeah, they've told you what they think is the actual facts. Fact of the matter is, you know, Jack Sparrow was shot in a supermarket with a tin of beans in his hand, right? This gets round. Jack Sparrow drunkenly shot someone in a pub using a baked bean gun.
Yeah.
Right, now obviously that's a fatuous thing to say, but it's true.
Yeah.
So every pair of hands, any media outlet, any internet outlet, any video person on YouTube will have a slight different spin whether they know it or not. Does it not worry you that at no point do we know what's going on in reality in the world, you know, in Gaza, what the reality is?
Yeah, it worries me a lot. Yeah. It worries me a lot that whatever you see on the BBC, how do you know that any of it's...
Also, Putin, what's his real game?
Yeah.
You know, he's rattling his sabre about nuclear weapons. Well, mate, you're going to kill yourself too. Congratulations. Well done. What are you going to own? A dust bowl full of mutants, apparently. And some geezer without a nose, played by Walton Goggins.
You lost me there, but okay.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, self-esteem is difficult in a world where you're constantly lied to.
What's the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence then?
Self-confidence is where you can stand forward from a place of truth and confidence. Confidence comes from truth, right? Okay. Now, even though truth about the world around you, yeah, you might not be 100% clear on. Truth about yourself, when you have learnt that, I did this yesterday. I haven't told anyone about it because I haven't, but I've just told you, but I actually did this yesterday. There's no spin. There's no Jim Distortion from 50 and Coping was seen doing this yesterday, which is slightly different from this yesterday.
Okay.
That truth and knowledge can mean you can walk forward knowing where you are, what you can do, and how it goes.
So it's only your truth that matters then, is that what you're saying? In your sphere.
This is a puerile statement, but as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else and is the truth,
yeah.
How can it possibly hurt people? How can it possibly spin in a bad way? How can it derail you? Brutal fact of the matter is, you know, when you have to have self-confidence about what you can do, that comes with experience. I no longer sit in a van and throw up when I deliver something made by Metal Machine, which I used to do, even when I was delivering your stuff. I was just shitting it, thinking that everyone would hate it because I'm shit at everything. Why are they even doing it? Imposter Syndrome, episode 1, season 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
Self-confidence is a little bit of self-delusion that gets you through. Because if you have no self-confidence in any way, shape or form, you cannot function.
Okay. The reason I asked is that when I searched on Spotify earlier for a self-esteem podcast, the first one I started listening to was, in my opinion, nothing to do with self-esteem. The guy was saying the way you do this is you start, challenging yourself and do more things that are difficult and stuff. Well, it's nothing to do with self-esteem. That's confidence.
Does that
stop listening to it.
Does that not suggest to you that you're searching for some information from Spotify?
Yeah.
And because they've used the right tags for what you asked for, they gave you a spun version of that. You can link to it, but it isn't the same thing.
Yeah.
How do you combat self-esteem?
That's a very good question. I guess by recognising the damage it's done in the past.
Yeah.
To me.
You in the last, how long have I known you? 100 years? 10
years probably.
10 years. In the last 10 years, you are a completely different human being to who you used to be, with the same traits that are good and solid. Now, you understand your worth at work.
Yeah.
Now, you can see your kids looking straight up to you. Even though there's the past and there's some issues caused by that, they now love the pants off you.
Yeah.
Right? And now you're a person, instead of going, apart from you keep apologising for being short, which is weird, but you're a person now who can shine. You can do it. Look, I'm good at what I do at work. Just fucking listen to what I've got to say. And all of a sudden, old companies that can now see the reality, different things like that are coming back to you for more help.
Yeah. Yeah, which is nice.
It's not just nice, mate. It's life affirming.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Not that you need somebody else to affirm your life, but it helps.
Yeah, and I think getting beaten down by life definitely had a negative impact on my self-esteem and my self-confidence. But I guess a lot of it is having been through the counselling process, and some independent person helped me realise that I was worthy of love, worthy of friendship, worthy of trust, and all that stuff. Because you don't think you are. You just you become a servant to everyone else, and your focus is on making other people what you think is happy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you and I have lived very different lives, but I think on my end, I spent so much time having to tiptoe round gangsters, bikers, assholes, so I didn't die, that then I started to see which buttons I could push, where I could press, where I go, and that cynicism, what's the word? That way of looking at something, how to play the game, twisted me all up. Because then, when I was stood in a confrontation where there was going to be a fight, or someone's going to get shot, or it was all bad, I fronted it. And I was the best fronter there. I was always front and centre. I was always the one who would shout the loudest because I was fucking terrified. But no one ever saw that.
Yeah, so outwardly, incredibly self-confident.
Inwardly, I'm going to die now. Yeah. Which isn't great. But also, I think, if you are able to work in a place where you can get validation from people, but validation isn't, oh, well done. I think most of my life I've been looking for a pat on the head. Yeah. Which is a bit shit.
Well, I think everyone does.
But I think they do, yeah. And also, I do it with my wife. I'm like, I've done this, I've done that. And she's like, well, what do you want, a fucking medal? Yeah. She doesn't say that at all. But, that's what she should be saying. We all do that. You've done some washing, well, what do you want? Yeah. But I think once you realise that's what's missing in your life as well, especially being an addict, you can then see where the hole comes from. And that's why filling that hole with chocolate biscuits is just a shift. And I know it sounds ridiculous going from cocaine and heroin to chocolate biscuits. It's the same thing. Yeah. And also, incidentally, sugar on any scale is worse than any narcotic. It does more damage to more people than any drug does.
100%.
So look, I think what I'm really saying is even if you're struggling with self-esteem and you're struggling with the lows in your life and you're not finding your way forward, there is no guide map for you. But there is The same old thing we talk about time and time again, because it's fucking true. Talk to someone about how you're feeling. Talk to somebody about what's going wrong. Because as soon as you vocalize what goes wrong and how you feel, you take it out of yourself and you can analyze it. And if you don't self-analyze every now and again, you can't find a way out. And I realize that I need to do this to somebody. So I'm looking therapy-wise, because I am realizing that my addiction has not gone, it's just moved.
Yeah.
Which, you know, has scuppered plans to lose weight and do all that. But I'm now no longer wanting to find an excuse why I'm not doing it. I want to do it, but I'm not in a mental position to do so. Mm-hmm. Which some people won't understand because they're not addicts.
Yep.
So look, self-esteem. Last word on self-esteem from you?
I guess acknowledge it and work on it. Work on yourself.
Work on yourself. Don't worry about other people. Don't worry about your wife, your kids and all of that, because you can love them an awful lot better if you love yourself, which is a horrible cliche. And I sound like a wanker saying it, but you know what? It's true.
It is. It is.
Also, I want to say something else, and this is my final note, and I'm going to lean forward like all the other people do. Everyone's talking badly about you, right? Everyone says nasty things. You're fat, you're thin, you're too short, you're too tall, your penis is too small, your penis is too large, you've eaten too many sausages. Is that any of your business? Because I tell you it's not. Anyone who is disrespecting you, anyone who's talking down about you, anyone who's talking about you in a room in a negative way when you're not there is none of your business. And we've said this before. If you find yourself in a position where other people's opinion of you is swaying your opinion of you, cut them dead. Move away. Yeah? If you hear people are bad-mouthing you, let them get on with it, cut them dead, walk away. Because that kind of negativity in your life is what will cause you to go down a rabbit hole. And there are a few people I'm speaking to who are doing this about me recently. I don't care how you feel about me. I care how he feels about me, George feels about me, my wife and my child feel about me and my friends. Anyone else, it's none of my business. Have a great week.